So textbook NVIDIA breakdown here this morning, right? We saw a weak bull try to reclaim control, fail in their attempt to fill the gap, and then we basically looked at this as a Bollinger Band breakdown. Once we got that really high volume third candle of the day, right? Bearish engulfing candle, bearish engulfing on volume, was then looking for an entry up towards sort of those highs to get that perfect risk reward down towards sort of that midline on this BB band. So failed gap fill, bearish trend, and then looking for sort of that continuation narrative. So I do want to see what the reaction is here, right? If we get that tennis ball bounce up and over here, I'll be looking to get in. So I'm looking to play, I'm playing these shares, options. All right, so get into the entry zone here. Okay, still not the tennis ball. What I'm looking for is for sellers to be able to reject with some violence. So as price climbs up, I want to see sellers step in and push price back down immediately. Kind of how we just saw there. Not yet, not yet. It's a little bit more of a tennis ball there. What that tennis ball reaction tells me is that bulls are weak. So if bulls are weak, then I have a pretty good opportunity to then be able to step back in with bears and really push price action lower. So it's my final piece of confirmation that my thesis is correct. Fuck. No, I mean, it's anywhere inside this red, in between these red lines here, right? That's my entry zone. Anywhere in here, right? Because that's the risk reward ratio. Not that I missed my entry on this. Hadn't quite gotten in yet, but we'll see if price can pull back sort of into my entry zone. So I was just basically trying to not FOMO into this play. So that was definitely a tennis ball reaction there. All right, so I'm just identifying an area where I get the appropriate risk reward. So I'm looking for basically just evidence of seller stepping in and defending inside this zone, right? So I want to make sure I get the right reaction. Yeah, a lot of that is potentially selling pressure though. I want to see how this closes. Still, I still think it's kind of in play. A little bit of a rejection. So although we got a relatively strong volume close there on NVIDIA, the candle and the volume profile tell us a different story. So the candle arrow, right, if we were to imagine this body of candles an arrow, it was pointing down. So increasing volume and arrow pointing down tells me pressure from the top side, or there's resistance above. So yeah, this area, right, this, we'll call it push up above this now. It's my entry zone. So this is where I have the appropriate risk reward to justify taking this trade. Once I have that, then I'm looking for the right reaction of price inside that area, right? So I want to make sure that it's getting stuffed. I want to make sure that I actually see buyers stepping in, or sorry, sellers stepping in and defending sort of that 229.20 area, right? So that's just the zone where I'm looking for a reaction. I'm not going to just immediately click. I want to see that appropriate, kind of appropriate reaction to sort of price. So still no entry yet. I still need to be a little bit patient. I think it looks a little bit indecisive potentially. See, that for me looks like that tennis ball reaction, right? Where it hits that high and then bounces right back down. No, going to the downside, Matthew, looking to the downside. Your, entry zone is inside this area. Stop loss would be high of day. Target is low of this B or mid BB band. So I'm still just trying to wait for my perfect entry within this context, right? I'm seeing a little bit of sign of strength from bulls. So I just want to make sure that they're fully exhausted before I jump in. So just passing on that standard, right? I'm now also making the amount that I'm risking a lot less. It's about 50 cents for about a $2 move. So I'm getting 4-to-1 risk reward on this play. So really, really good opportunity just by being a little bit patient. So I'm glad I didn't FOMO into this entry. And hopefully I can get a good price here in a second. Okay, so watching here closely. If I can get an overreaction flush in here, and then I'm going to look to go short. Okay, definitely finding a wall there, right? Definitely finding a wall. Giving this a second. So now I've had that sort of overreaction flush above. What I'm trying to now wait for is sort of that tennis ball bounce back. So just make sure that I'm getting evidence that bears are able to sort of reject. It's been a tough trade to wait for this entry, so maybe a little bit FOMO on this, but still pretty happy with how this is coming together. All right, guys, I am in. Average price 228.80. Average price 228.80. So watching this back, I was actually late on my entry instead of early. My entry should have been about 30 seconds before my actual entry timing. So far, so good here. So far, so good. Let's see if this thing can now break down significantly. I can almost look to take some off here in a second, to be honest. Stop loss, I'm actually going to go 10 cents above high a day, just in case it gives me a little bit of a fake out. So the reason I was willing to be a little bit flexible here with my stop loss is because I got a much more sort of tidy entry within my zone. So the expected volatility I had for this play was about 50 cents. My stop loss in practice was about 20 cents. So I was happy to, kind of maintain that same level of volatility that I had sized my position for. Giving this a sec. I'm shorting shares here. This could have been the other entry. So because I was a little bit late on my initial entry, if I would have waited, this would have been the perfect entry. So I think that's probably the biggest mistake I made on this trade, was just my entry timing was a little bit inconsistent, and I didn't put myself in the easiest situation from that. Still in. Okay, we're back in business here. Let's see if this thing can break now. Give me some quick follow through and really run. My strongest trades I'm green on right away, and on this one it's about 3-4 minutes after my entry, and I'm still not really green on this play. So at this point, I should have either been considering to cut it, or I'm kind of realizing in the moment, right? So my entry timing wasn't good enough on this trade. So best trades, like I said, I'm green right away. In this case, I'm having to wait, and that extra waiting is causing sort of that anxiety. That anxiety then creates extra stress that compounds in negative decisions later on. So bad entry makes it harder for me to take profit in the right spot, to manage my risk the right way. And so not being correct right away is sort of that warning sign that maybe there are a few things wrong with my thesis. Maybe a little bit early on my entry on this. A little bit early. The entry should be the fake out higher, I think. And then you go, yeah, like 10%, 15%, 50 cents, stop loss above that area kind of thing. For 5 cents from entry price, so it's hard to be too bitter. Okay, so let's watch this thing if it can now break down. First profit target's going to be around that 228 area. Want to make those lower lows. Honestly, this whole time waiting for this thing to either stop me out or break down was just causing a lot of anxiety. So kind of quiet, making sure the indexes are telling me a consistent narrative, and just waiting for that thing to break. But because my entry was a little bit wrong, because now I'm waiting, 5 minutes for this thing to finally break down, that's just stacking up stress, right? That's kind of draining my mental capital to a certain extent. So really good thesis, really happy with sort of the idea of this trade, but my entry timing screwed me over a little bit, and yeah, made this trade more difficult than it needed to have been. Hey, come on, start breaking down here, NVIDIA. Let's see if it can go. Right back at my entry price. It's annoying. So yeah, maybe a little bit early on my entry here. Still feel pretty confident in this thesis. See if we can now get a little bit of separation away from that sort of high a day and then really start to push this thing lower. As I say, that pulls back. Well, yeah, I mean, the risk I'm going to have to fight back a little bit on because we're just supporting the previous trend, right? So that's all it is. We're going trend continuation, right? Versus trying to fight a breakout when we saw a rejection yesterday. But I do feel like my entry timing kind of let me down here just a little bit. That extra 20 cents would have been a big difference. Everything bar Tesla. Yeah, I mean, I definitely feel like the thesis is still correct. But yeah, like I said, the entry timing just makes it a little bit complicated. Little bit of a worse entry than I should have gotten. The entry should have been on the fake out higher instead of in between. And that's just sort of what's making me sticky. The only reason I'm still holding on to this trade is because the bullish volume has just completely evaporated across the boards. We're not seeing any volume in NVDA. We're not seeing any volume in QQQ. We're not really seeing any volume in the SPY. So just really being told that bulls are out of steam. Thesis holds, timing still wrong. Right back at entry price. Generally don't like trades where I'm not green right away either. Like was for a second there and then it pulled back. We're back at entry price, right? So I'm just tempted to close it here, make $2. Right, see, a bad entry makes me not trust my thesis, which makes me want to close the position here early. Didn't happen, but tempted. I just don't like how it's moving. It should have moved faster. Right, if my idea was actually correct, then I should have been correct right away. I have a little bit of the case of the hopiums here. See how this candle closes. If I can actually finally get this thing to move, get to that profit target area, then life is easy. Hey, better, right? Much better. Much better. I'm going to look to take some off here pretty quick, I think, guys. Maybe a little bit earlier than I wanted, just because I want to de-risk at this point. It's been a little bit of a slow mover, so I'm going to look to take some off here pretty much right now. Going to close off about quarter of my position. I took some off at 228.37. Stop loss now, my remainder is going to be entry price. So closed about at 1R, right? So I had 50 cent stop, took my first take profit, 50 cents down. There it goes, right? There it goes. So we just had to wait it out a little bit. Like I said, the entry price on this, just a little bit shitty. I'm going to take off a little bit more here, actually. Okay, so, oh, fuck. There we go. All right, so took a little bit off here. Now let's see if this thing can keep breaking down. So then that's me scaling out another little chunk there at $1 from my entry price. So now 2R on this trade and feeling much more comfortable about my thesis. All right, so far so good here. So far so good. So let's see if this thing can keep going here, guys. But appreciate the support. Appreciate everyone sharing for each other here. Thesis was good. Timing was a little bit wrong. That made this a little bit stickier than I wanted. But mega play here all of a sudden, right? Mega play. Nice work, Copeland. Yeah, nice, Rusty. Nice work. Yeah, that's the entry I should have gone. I'm like still kind of beating myself up over that, to be honest with you. Okay, I'm going to take off a little bit more here, guys. I'm going to take off a little bit more here. So now, right, scaled more of my position out, $1.50 from my entry price, right, or 3R. So, you know, risk-free, taking profit on the way down, making sure I'm not leaving anything on the table. I can get a fill. There we go. All right, so doing pretty well here. Let's see if this thing can keep breaking down. Next profit target's going to be low of day, and we'll see if we can get there. But great little scoop. Great little rip, guys. Congratulations to everyone. A little bit of patience. It's tough when you know your thesis is correct, but your entry is wrong. Nice work, Ravi. Nice work. Hopefully you're banking on that too. So, great little play, guys. Great little play. But yeah, a little bit early on that entry. Just a little bit early. That's what needs to be improved. Should have gotten the entry that Rusty got. We're getting paid for buying fake outs or selling fake outs. So that's that should have probably been the entry, but I'm okay with this. Been a pretty nice rip down here. Now I've caught a move, caught a dollar move. So, you know, hit that 1R. Let's see if we can get more. Nice, Matthew. Nice. Whew. Yeah, that feels good, guys. Feels real good. Yeah, sometimes you got to trust your thesis, right, Michael? Sometimes you got to trust the thesis. And for myself, so much of the benefit of me running this room is that I can basically hear my thoughts out loud without thinking I'm a crazy person. So when I'm like trying to talk through it, right, I'm trying to basically deduce what my thesis is, deduce how price action is behaving. And it's easier for me to do that by being able to sort of listen or hear my thoughts out loud. But yeah, great trade now, everyone. Great trade. Nice, Copeland. Nice. Pretty similar story to what we're getting on the old Spider now, too. Spiders had a decent rejection, right? Sell off. Actually hit the bottom Bollinger Band before we did. Kind of sucks. Rick's showing off. Yeah, I know, right? Our thesis was perfect. Our thesis was spot on. The timing was a little bit off. Just a little bit. Should have been, yeah, 20 seconds later on an entry. I'm buzzing. Just a little. That's the one thing I want to take from this. You guys just could have been a little bit. Yo, let's go. That's huge. That's a fun trade. That's a really fun trade. Makes you wish you weren't, you didn't spend all of January at the day job. I would say I would not be looking to re-enter here if I'm not in anymore, right? Because this is maybe looking a little bit like a possible reversal. Right? It's kind of the opposite of this pullback that we saw here, right? If we're seeing weak bulls here, we're kind of seeing weak bears here to a certain extent. That's kind of mirroring it. So I wouldn't want to be trying to look for a continuation narrative here quite yet. If I can get a breakdown through low of day or through that sort of bottom Bollinger Band, that for me would be where it's interesting. Nice work, Rusty. Nice work, man. Yeah, it's turned into a pretty nice trade. Really nice trade, actually. Just should have been... Yeah, Rusty, I'm so jealous of your entry. That was perfect. The one thing I need to work on a little bit. Okay, that candle looks better. So maybe I have a bit more confidence we can hit that low of day again. Might look to take some off. Like I said, take some off at that next low of day. I wouldn't say it's really either of those things, right? The thesis here today was basically I want to see the gap finish filling, right? Or a gap rejection. Because we saw that really strong defense of it and then that continuation breakdown. So I'm basically just trying to mimic the same price action that I saw yesterday. That really is the thesis. So if price behaved that way, you know, it's maybe a little bit extended. I'm basically just looking for it to keep doing exactly what it was doing yesterday. And then if I could find that, you know, repetition, then that's where I'm going to be profitable. So basically it's okay. I had evidence of this thesis working yesterday. Can I get the same thesis here today? That's essentially what it is, right? Downside pressure, you know, see that volume step in, you kind of have some confidence that, okay, I've gotten a rejection here. So then it's, okay, how good of a pullback can I get to support that thesis? But in reality, right, you know, we didn't really invalidate this setup trigger here. And so, you know, that's why I had confidence that this thing was going to break down. That makes sense? Perfect. And so, yeah, now I have risk. I'm risk free, right? My stop loss is hanging out like kind of at this 228 barrier. This bearish engulfing candle, bearish engulfing on volume, rejection back inside fat BB bands. That was the setup trigger here. Yeah. Stop loss is 228. If I got like an increasing outlier volume, if I got a fake out under that 15 min low, you know, some sort of volume standard, if I maybe got like really strong full body bullish candles here on that increasing volume, that would have maybe told me that bull's a reclaimed control. If I got like a break, close, and hold above that 229, that would have invalidated it. Maybe if like SPY totally reversed. Okay, might get stopped out here in a second. Protecting the remainder. Still in. Push down, you prick. Okay. Close. Still in. Stop loss is 228. 10 cents away. All right, I'm out. Nice little rip, guys. Nice little rip. Well done. So all in all, fantastic little trade, right? Got about $1.80 a share there in about 10 minutes. Entry was a little bit poor, but thesis was really excellent. Pretty happy with my risk management, and ultimately not too much to complain about this play. Honestly, Brad, I think what you're doing is fine, right? You're protecting your process versus chasing the outcome. Right, for myself, the process on this, or the sort of issue where I had maybe on this is my entry wasn't as perfect, right? That gave me a little bit less margin for error. If I got that entry like I wanted, or maybe what I should have wanted was that, fake out higher, right? If I kind of got this candle here, right? That, February 23rd candle, right? Of course, sorry, not February 23rd. This 10:05 candle. If I get that entry there, then you can maybe beef about your pushing your stop loss. But in hindsight, right, at least for myself, my entry wasn't perfect here, which made my margin for error a little bit smaller. So I have no issue with you then protecting your stop loss, right, or protecting your entry once stop moves up. Because the issue wasn't the thesis in this context, right? The issue was the entry to a certain extent. That's what prevented this from being like a huge play that was not super stressful. The entry wasn't just perfect enough. And so, yeah, it just removes that margin for error just a little bit. So what you did, I got no real beef with. What you should be focusing on is, okay, how could I have gotten a better entry, which would have made that 10% hold better, if that makes sense. So I always like to think about my trading as kind of like first principles thinking, right? Where's the first mistake that I made that made me then make mistakes further down the path, right? So again, right, the entry here is what made maybe my take profit too aggressive, right? It makes me not be able to hold this thing all day long. It makes me not be able to get that follow through towards that sort of, mid band on the Bollinger Band. Just because I was still pretty patient on my entry, but I wasn't as patient as I could have been. I got this sort of middle ground entry instead of the perfect entry when I maybe know better to get that perfect entry. Like I almost FOMO'd myself in a little bit, or almost had maybe like blinders on this setup to a certain extent. Like I loved it a lot, where that put me into a situation where I was a bit aggressive on my entry, right? Which then makes me too aggressive on my take profit, right? Which makes me too aggressive on where I'm protecting my play. And then that's what eventually cost me money. It's not that I should have changed that rule. It's okay. I could have improved this, which would have then made my rule hold up perfectly. But ultimately ended up being a pretty good trade. Still got, a little bit over $1 worth of movement in a few minutes. But yeah, should have been green right away. So entry definitely is what I needed to have improved here.